sit and talk about some of my projects. I'll go over my current whips and then I think to talk about what I'm gonna knit this summer. I'm gonna review my previous summer makes because I plan on unraveling and reknitting a few of them. I'll just show those first, what my issues are with them, and then what I plan on making going forward. I'm just gonna start talking and we will see. A huge thanks to everyone that watched my last podcast and left lots of nice and encouraging comments, and yeah, I am grateful for this community and grateful for knitting in general. I'll start off with actually one finished object. It was a whip in my last podcast. This is the Spectrum Blip scarf by Jimmy Does Knitting. He is a podcaster here on YouTube and also a knitwear designer that's based in Amsterdam. And as soon as I saw this one, I knew that I wanted to knit it. I'll show a photo of what his sample looked like, but I had some balls of this color changing rowan yarn. Rather than doing multiple sets of different colors, I decided to hold one of the color changing blue to purple to pink with this kind of green color. I'm noticing that I think that the green one is color changing as well, or maybe I should say tonal, where it's kind of like a more dirty, grassy green and more neon kind of fluctuating throughout the scarves. Obviously it's not meant to be worn with this much color. I do have a black wool coat that I wear a lot in the wintertime. Regardless of what I wear underneath, my coat is black, so that's pretty much all that you'll see. And then I thought that having this scarf would be just a cool addition. Basically, this is what the scarf looks like. I haven't blocked it yet just because it is kind of getting into some spring weather right now, and I probably won't get wear out of this until this fall and winter. In terms of the pattern, it is pretty simple. It's like you cast it on. I think that there is some type of provisional cast on that you can do, or Judy's magic cast on, something like that. I didn't do that. I just did a long tail cast on, and the way that you do it is you knit it up basically in a tube, and then at the end you can either bind off the stitches together, or you can bind it off normally and then sew it together with mattress stitch. I cast off binding them together on this end, and I feel like the end that I just cast it off and sewed together with mattress stitch looks better. So, I mean, I don't know. I just wanted to try both methods just to see which I preferred. I don't know if I mentioned yet, these are both rowan felted tweed. I bought 3 balls of each, but somehow I ended up with more of the color changing than the green. I wanted to just use up all the yarn that I have. I didn't want to have this much left over of the pink color. So I just kept going, and I had left over rowan felted tweed from my spot sweater. So I just used that together with the color changing for this stripe. And then I felt like it wasn't quite long enough. So then I used some more of that felted tweed, and then I actually used this blue color here. This is another rowan yarn. This is Rowan Valley Tweed, with this being like a super colorful scarf. I figured that it would look fine having it being a little bit scrappy, so I just added that, and I like the combination of the blue and brown, and I actually feel like seeing this has inspired me to maybe do a blue and brown striped project in the future, but we'll see. So that's my only finished object that you haven't seen. I will just show you an update on my Dagmar cardigan. I did modify the Dagmar cardigan by Petite Knit. It's written to be a drop shoulder, but I just modified it to be a saddle shoulder construction. So this is it, all finished, all blocked. It blocked out perfectly. The sizing of the sleeves and the cuffs are perfect. It is like a rustic yarn. It's a Canadian yarn. It's by Custom Woolen Mills. And I think that the texture of the cables turned out perfect, and I'm really happy that I chose to do these kind of caramel colored buttons instead of the toggle buttons. I did film a whole dedicated project vlog on this one, which hopefully should already be up on my channel before I post this. So you can take a look at that if you want to see the process of how I did this and kind of my thoughts on it along the way. I would recommend, if you're thinking of doing this pattern and you were also just not loving the way that the drop shoulder looked, I would say that it was pretty easy to modify it into a saddle shoulder, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'll move on to my current whips and then get into my spring summer plans after that. If you've been following my channel, you've seen this yarn before. This is Noro Silk Garden Sock Solo in the color T82. I got this yarn when I went to Japan last year for my 30th birthday. I knit this up into a version of the cardigan, or into a version of the sweater number 9 light in the fall, and I think when I knit that up, I just really wanted to use this yarn, and I hadn't found a perfect pattern that I wanted to knit, which is why I ended up knitting it in a pattern that I already had in my pattern library. And I found that I wasn't really wearing that sweater. My favorite thing about the sweater was the colorway, like the yarn, but I wasn't really in love with the fit. I'm tempted to lengthen the body length by not even an inch, probably just like half an inch. And so it's not enough to where it bothers me, but in certain pants that I have that are a bit more low rise, it kind of looks like this, where you can see the waistband. And I like the waistband to be covered. I thought that maybe lengthening it would make it more wearable. And I did already do sweater surgery on this one to lengthen the cuffs, so I was pretty comfortable doing sweater surgery basically. But then I thought to myself, do I even really like this sweater? Is it worth going through all that, or should I just unravel it, harvest the yarn, and knit it into something else? Because if what I like about it is the colorway, then I'll like it knit up as something else in a pattern that I like better. I ended up unraveling the whole project. It did take some time unpicking all the tubular bind off. This yarn does have some mohair content, so it was really like wanting to stick to itself. I did have to cut the webbing holding the stitches together that were kind of like fuzzy and matted. And then because I did sweater surgery, there was like tons of ends and like a million little tiny balls when I unraveled this one. I ended up knitting it up into the Wānaka sweater by AngelaasKnits, and this is what it's looking like so far. I am really pleased with how this turned out, and I feel like this is just a design that I feel like is just more polished and kind of shows off my, I guess, like current skill level, if that makes sense. And yeah, I just really am in love with how it's knitting up. I won't talk too much about this because I did film, or started filming, a dedicated project vlog, but I will just try it on so you can see. I haven't added on the buttons yet, but I do have these like pearl iridescent buttons that I think would go really well with this. This was my first time doing a double knit button band, and I did use the tutorial by Florence Miller on how to do the buttonholes without cutting the yarn. So I did do that for all the buttons. I really like the detail with the double folded collar and, double folded collar and the double knit button band. I think it just looks really polished, and yeah, it like looks like something that you could buy in a store, but then obviously you would never come across something with this colorway. I've done the 2 setup rows for a tubular bind off, but I have them on try on tubing right now just because I am playing a game of yarn chicken. I'm gonna try to knit the body as long as I can and then see if I can bind off the sleeves or if I have to unravel a little bit. We'll see. I think I want to make the priority making the body a good length, and then if I need to stretch out the sleeves when blocking, then I think that I should be able to do that. It's my first time doing a pattern by this designer. It's very thorough. There are, I think that there's diagrams in the pattern, and the instructions are pretty clear, especially for this kind of area, doing the double knit button band and then how to do the neck collar. Like, it lists out specifically how many stitches to pick up in each section to make it look like a very round collar. I like how it's fitting so far, and yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about this. So let this just be a reminder that your knitting wardrobe should be filled with things that bring you joy, things that you enjoy wearing, and if something is not quite up to what you want, you can always unravel it and make something else. I think I also really like the juxtaposition of this being such a like whimsical, colorful colorway, with this being such a like classic design, almost like preppy with the polo collar and like just the really polished details. I really like that look of like a really polished sweater, but then a more interesting yarn. So this is my next work in progress, which I haven't talked about yet on my channel. This is the Waffle Loop sweater by Other Loops. I am working with holst garn, super soft, held together with a silk mohair. I forgot the name, I'll put it on the screen. I'll just try to show the color and texture and the halo. I have knit quite a few projects by Other Loops in the past. They are one of my top designers, I would say, so I guess I'm used to how they write their patterns, but the pattern is well written. I like the attention to detail with this decorative increases along the shoulders and how that lines up with the pattern, and I do enjoy how the neckline is like a very neat, close-fitting kind of crew neck. What else? I feel like I'm very all over the place in terms of talking, so if I missed anything, just let me know in the comments below. When I knit my Clematis sweater, that was my first time using holst garn super soft, and I really enjoyed it, and I found that it did change texture quite a bit once it was blocked. I did also hold it with an alpaca silk, so that also kind of helped it be more like fluffy and soft, and this one is also held with mohair, so I guess I haven't yet worked with it by itself, but so far I'm happy with it, and it's quite affordable. I think that this color will work into my wardrobe pretty seamlessly. My next knit is another one that I am re-knitting, and that is the Clematis vest by Emma Mayer. So the story behind this one is that I knit the vest last summer. The fit was off, my gauge was off, and I just wanted a tighter neckline. Like, as you can see, I like a crew neck neckline, and the original pattern has more of a boat neck. The pattern is really well written. If you saw my last episode, I did knit the Clematis sweater. I decided to make some modifications to adjust the neckline to my preference. And I also added sleeves, and you can watch my previous episode to hear more about that. After I made those changes and they were successful, it made me hopeful that I could reknit this one. So this is what it's looking like currently. Kind of hard to show when it's just holding it up, but I think that you can kind of get the gist of it. It does have a slanted button band here, but I brought in the neckline and the shoulders quite a bit, so it almost has like a, not a racer quite, but it's definitely like more in the shoulders, which I prefer, and the neckline is quite a bit tighter. And I did keep it a cropped length, and yeah, I'm just working on the armhole ribbing right now, and I just have to do the other arm and the button band. So I'm excited to be able to wear this hopefully on its own in the spring, but I think that I could layer it as well over like t-shirts. This is knit with a cotton wool blend, and I think that's also part of why I didn't like my first version, because it did kind of grow quite a bit with blocking, and just with the cotton content it didn't have the same like cinch or like stretch memory that 100% wool does. Like I've said before, very well written. I would recommend it. I just made those adjustments based on personal preference, not that the pattern, that I didn't like the pattern. I think it's just some people like a boat neck, some people like a crew neck, and I am one of those crew neck people. For both this and the Wānaka sweater, I'm just reknitting it up from its noodly state. And I mean, the fabric looks fine so far, and I feel like once I block it, it'll just be fine. And even right now, like, it's not looking too lumpy or anything, so I didn't bother. I know that you can do some stuff to try to like straighten it out before reknitting it, but I didn't do that, and I think that it's working up fine so far. So that is the end of my current whips. If you watched my Everything I Knit in 2024, you'll notice that I didn't knit any summer garments last year. I just knit all sweaters and woolly projects throughout the whole year. And that's because I kind of rebound overcorrected from 2023, which was my first full year of knitting. And I did 4 summer projects in that first year, and I would say that all of them are flops. I was kind of just picking patterns and knitting things that I thought were aesthetically pleasing and not really thinking about how they would fit into my wardrobe. It was a once bitten twice shy kind of scenario where I just decided that I'm just gonna knit woolly things year round. But this year, now that I'm far enough away from it, I can kind of revisit these projects and see what I can do to repurpose the yarn, just because I don't want to have stuff sitting in my wardrobe that I don't use. So the very first one that I knit is this one here. This is the Secret Summer crop top by Jessie Made, and it's a free pattern. And I knit this up using I think it was like a bamboo, like a viscose cotton blend that I got at Michael's. And I took this with me on a trip to Europe. I went to London, Amsterdam, and Berlin. And I took this along with me to knit on, and I finished it shortly after I got back. So this one was a free pattern. It was only my second project that I had knit following a pattern, and I didn't want to invest into buying patterns just yet. So this one is knit bottom up in the round, and then you put the back stitches on hold, you knit up the front, and then you knit these double knit straps here. I modified the pattern to make them ties because, especially with it being bottom up, I thought it would be hard to gauge the exact strap length. I have never worn this. I do think that it was smart to do the ties for the shoulders. I think that that looks kind of cute and makes it adjustable. However, this fabric is quite holey and see-through. Like, I definitely couldn't wear this without a bra. But then also where the straps are positioned and with them being string ties, it's not really something that you can wear with a bra without it looking kind of weird. I guess if I had like a strapless bandeau, that would work. But I think also just with the sizing of it, having 0 ease, this isn't something that really works into my summer wardrobe. I might just unravel. And the only issue with this is that I don't have any more of this yarn, I don't think. But I like the concept of this. So I could see myself knitting something similar with a kind of square neckline. But I would want it to have some positive ease. And I might even still do the tie closure. And also I would pick a fabric that is more solid and not so see-through, so that I could wear it without a bra, or have the straps thicker and then maybe positioned more to the outside to where I could wear something underneath. The lesson that I learned from this one is that I don't like 0 ease string strapped tops. This was pretty good for first year knitting Angela, but just not something that fits well into my personal style and that I would get a lot of wear out of. This is my next summer make. Good crop or good crop top or good tank, something along those lines. And I forget the designer as well. I think that this one was nice in theory, but then not in execution. I did like this pattern and the sample photos of the design. This one is constructed bottom up. You cast on, I think with a provisional cast on, and then you do some knitting, and then you tie it down to do this like stockinette double folded hem. And then you knit up, and then you do split for the front and the back, and then I think you do a 3 needle bind off up at the straps. I really like the colorway. I don't exactly remember the name of this yarn, but it is a cotton silk blend. Again, I feel like the fit isn't really conducive to wearing with a bra. I could wear like a crisscross sports bra actually with this one, so that would be fine. With this pattern, there's no finishing around the arm hem. When I had it blocked, it looked like it would cover the straps, but then just with the nature of having a stockinette edge, it curls in quite a bit, so it comes in more than what I would prefer. I don't know if you can see here, but the decreases are slanted because I didn't really understand how to do the waist shaping, and yeah, like the shirt is kind of like twisted to one side. This is one of the ones that I am planning to unravel and reknit. I do have another ball of the same yarn, so I think I would have enough to basically make the shoulders more broad and have a looser fit around the body. I don't really love how the bottom flips out like that, and I blocked it and there isn't really a way around that. So there's a few options that I've been considering for a replacement reknit of this one. The first one is the Sabai top by Suzanne Mueller. That one is a DK weight pattern and it has more of a boat neck. I should know that I don't like a boat neck. However, everyone's project photos under that pattern all look really good. So I'm like, maybe I'll try it. Maybe I will like it more and more of like a blouse versus like a more sweater vest. There is the option to do either some ribbing around the neckline or do it just as a straight cast off. I think that I would get a lot more wear out of it being more of a looser blouse type fit, and I think that that would work better with this yarn composition as well. Another one that I'm considering is the, I think, blouse number 1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. Very similar vibe. I think I'll just have to look more onto the details of the gauge and see which one works out better. Another one is the Cloud Top by Petite Knit, and that one definitely would be one that's bra friendly and has more of a crew neck compared to the boat neck with the blouse number 1 and the Sabai top. Another one is the Always Tank or Always Camisole by Helen Biba. And this one has that kind of boat neck, but it's quite high and then it has quite low in the underarm. I don't quite meet gauge because I think that that one is worsted weight or like an 18 stitch gauge, and this is a DK weight yarn. So I might have to fudge the numbers for that one, but that's kind of the general vibe, those patterns of what I'm thinking for this yarn. As I was just trying to take this off, I'll just mention also, there's no finishings on the neckline. The neckline is quite tight. It looks really nice when it's sitting on the body, but it's quite hard to get on and off, especially with my glasses. So yeah, let me know which you prefer in terms of a pattern to reknit this top. If you've knit any of the patterns that I mentioned, let me know what you thought about it and if you would recommend. My next one is the Florentina top by Witray Designs. This one looks really cute if you see the pattern photos. It is a V-neck vest that has these I-cord ties that you use to tie up the front. I used a cotton linen blend to make this one. The yarn is very thick and thin and it creates this slubby like texture. It's also very see-through. Again, this is all in that very first summer of knitting, but I remember this pattern being hard to follow, or I remember being confused. Part of that might be just due to my skill level at the time. Like, I really didn't understand what she meant when it came to attaching these I-cord ties. It just didn't turn out very well. I think I probably picked up not enough stitches along the I-cord edge. I was trying to mitigate having the sleeves roll in the way that my good tank did. So I did one side with an I-cord and I did just like a little bit of ribbing on the other side to see which I preferred. The ribbing does not look very good or even with this yarn, so that I didn't love. This suffers from the issue with all of these patterns. They're too small. I feel like with this type of pattern, with like a linen top, it's supposed to be breezy, flowy with the ties, and then can wear with like maybe some flowy linen pants, a linen skirt, something like that. This doesn't give off that vibe at all. I'll try it on so you can see. I didn't bother weaving in the ends of these ties because I knew that I was just gonna probably unravel this sometime in the future. As you can tell, it doesn't give flowy, summery vibes at all. It's definitely too small, and I don't want this much space in between the ties. If I tied it any tighter, then the fabric would look too stretched and too see-through. Honestly, if it looked like this and then had like a little bit more positive ease, that would look fine. I could probably reknit this and size up like 2 sizes, but then I still remember the pattern just like not being well written is how I remember it. Again, that could have just been my skill level at the time, but I'm thinking it might be better just to embrace the fact that this yarn doesn't make a very, I don't know what the word is. Doesn't make a very solid fabric, and just lean into that and make something with lace. One of them being the Rhoda top or Rhoda tank by Irene Lynn. It has like this like crisscross lace, and I'm not sure if it incorporates some type of cables as well in order to do that cross. I really like the look of that, and with that pattern I would probably be wearing like a tank top underneath anyways, and then this would just kind of be like an airy something to put over top. It wouldn't matter that the fabric is kind of thin and see-through. And the shoulders do look to where if I wore like a sports bra or something, it would be hidden underneath, or not hidden, but you can see it, but you know what I'm saying. I haven't knit anything before by Irene Lynn, but I'm always really intrigued by her designs, and I always hear good feedback from people that have knit her pattern. Another one that I'm considering is the drop loop top or drop loop tank by Other Loops. And again, that one is kind of meshy, see-through type of fabric. So I think that that might look good with this yarn as well. Let me know if you know any other patterns similar to that, where it's like a holy netty type of design, and I could consider that. I'll just show you my last one of my summer knitting fails. This is the Ingrid Summer Sweater by Gregoria Fibers. It is a drop shoulder construction. It was my first drop shoulder construction. You start off by knitting the back and then knitting each side of the front, and then you join the fronts, knit down, join around the body and knit down as well. And then you pick up and knit the sleeves in the round. The issue with this is the yarn that I chose and the sizing. I do like the idea of this top. It has the eyelets and it's kind of flowy to wear over top of like a tank top in a kind of like a breezy summer evening. This again was in the beginning of my knitting journey, so I didn't want to commit to buying an expensive yarn. And so I knit this with, I think it's Lion Brand Kobu, and I got this at Walmart. On paper, I thought that this would be a good yarn with the viscose and the cotton. The strands aren't really plied together. It just looks like string basically. So it was really extremely splitty. I've only worn this a few times and it's getting quite pill. Like it just didn't wear very well. With the weight of this sweater, once I finished knitting all of it, it really pulls. And so it's a lot more oversized than what I wanted. And if you can see on the side here, I realized that it was going to be like way too wide, but then instead of ripping back, because I didn't want to rip back the whole thing and start all over again and knit a smaller size, I tried to knit decreases to counteract that. It looks weird. You can kind of see the pockets here where it looks too oversized. I haven't blocked it. Like it's just really super oversized. And I was worried that if I block it, that these sleeves will be like down to here. I think that I can still salvage it and wear it in a more kind of casual way. I mean, I guess it doesn't look that bad, but it's just not wearing very nicely. Like it's just like string. So I definitely wouldn't use this yarn again. And I might even want to reknit this pattern using a different yarn. Using a yarn more similar to this one, I think would also be more breathable. It kind of has a texture where it feels moisturized, if that makes sense. This kind of feels more like dry to the skin, whereas I couldn't wear this on a hot day. It would just be better with maybe like a linen or silk blend. I'm gonna be thinking about these projects and things that I didn't like about them and take that into consideration as I'm trying to make some summer knits this year. Maybe I'll become a summer knitter. I think I'm gonna end this video here. If you made it to the end of this video, thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more of my videos, and follow me on Instagram at Angela's Creative Corner. And I hope to see you next time. Bye!